Hi, I'm Christy Knischel, co-host of the LLC podcast. It's an honor to introduce listeners to inspiring women who are making a real difference in logistics and supply chain. With the LLC podcast, you'll hear inspirational stories, both personal and professional challenges our guests have overcome, how their backgrounds help to shape who they are today, and how they empower others, give back to their communities, and often the world. Joining me today is my dear friend Racquelle Pakutz. She is the founder and president of Zen Freight Solutions, your superior transportation partner, and host of the podcast Trucker Talks Live. Her job and passion is to make the transportation industry a better place by connecting small businesses and streaming transportation processes for clients and transportation professionals alike. Some of her recent achievements and dreams have come to fruition since 2020 for Racquelle. She was a contributing author in the Amazon best-selling anthology 21. She's also chair member of the George Washington University Customer Experience Program. She was also featured on Sirius Satellite Radio with Dave Nemo Show as well. When Racquelle isn't in her office, you can find her somewhere in the trees, practicing mindfulness and gratitude for her connection with nature. Racquelle is a firm believer in working at least as hard on yourself as you do your business, allowing you to be the best version of yourself the most often. So thanks for being here, Racquelle.
Oh, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. So can you share with our listeners a little bit more about where you grew up, your early influencers, maybe some mentors you had along the way?
Sure. So I'm born and raised Butler, Pennsylvania native. I started here. I went to college just an hour north in Clarion, Pennsylvania. But as soon as I graduated, I came right back to our beautiful little town here. And I've been sharing more and more about it because Butler is the birthplace of the Jeep. And I'm a Jeep girl, so I just want everyone to know that this is the place to come and be to learn all things Jeeps.
I have a Jeep too. They have that Jeep Fest.
Yes, it's a big deal. We bring people from all over into our little town. We're just about an hour north of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So I'm on western PA, and I started in logistics right out of college. It was my very first job back in March of 2009. I started there and kind of found that I really got pulled into the day-to-day, right? I love being able to solve problems, help other people, and make money. And I can do all three of those things with logistics. So it really captured me right from the beginning. Being young, being only 20 years old in this market was, or in this industry, was very overwhelming at first. I kind of looked around and was like, okay, where are my mentors? Who can I follow? And I ended up getting placed with one of the best salespeople at the company that I was with. So I took in a lot of information from him. I kind of learned how to relate to clients and how to make them feel comfortable with providing that we're taking all of their freight and moving it across the country. It's a pretty big deal, and you have to trust the partner that you're working with. From there, I really just kind of started to take notes from everyone around me, whether it was my manager or another person that was being trained, just kind of learning what it is that they're doing and then applying it in my own way.
So speaking of that, so did you do that because you just felt like that's what your personality is, that's what you wanted to do, or did you maybe envision yourself where you're at today, where now you have your own business? And maybe talk a little bit about that journey and how you got there.
Sure. So I thought for sure I was a corporate employee for my life. Like, my goal was to climb the ladder and get to the top and then just stay there with a company. After being with the same company for 6 years, I realized that I was kind of capped out as an operations manager. I really couldn't do much more. So in 2016, my sales manager and I left, and we started another transportation logistics company. We did that on our own, just a group of 5 of us. And 3 years into that, we really hit it off. It took off well, but I still wasn't satisfied because I wanted work from home. I wanted more flexibility and I wanted a little bit more responsibility in that as well. So in 2019, I kind of was just burnt out and said, I'm done with logistics and left. Little did I know that logistics is just my life. And an opportunity came up for me to be an agent for Logistics Dynamics. And I jumped on it because it's my love, right? I just have this passion for transportation. So June of 2019, Zen Freight Solutions was born, and we've pushed through a pandemic, and I started with a whole different clientele than what I have now, but it's been an amazing journey. I'm very proud to say that after I just looked at my numbers, we're now using the same carriers more and more on loads. So like I had a report that says, in 2019, we set up a truck and we used them 1.2 times. Well, now we're up to 2.5 times. So I'm very proud of that. We're really, really starting to make a difference out there.
No, that's awesome. I mean, obviously, going out on your own can be very scary and challenging. And, did you have support around you, or did that come later? And like, how did you feel about it, like after, with COVID hitting and not knowing what was going to happen?
So I had no support at all. Actually, when I left, my previous employer decided to send a frivolous lawsuit to try to make me to stop doing what I was doing. So that was extremely scary. And for anyone out there that has such a thing, just take it as motivation. That's what I did. I took it and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to work even harder because of this. Somebody doesn't want me to do something tough crap. I'm doing it.
I love it. It's almost like I talked to someone yesterday about this, right? Like when people have doubt or think that you're not going to be able to do it or they're trying to stop you, it's almost like it fuels you to do even better and want to just prove not only to yourself, but to these other people that I can do this. I am as good as I thought I was. And, see you bye in the wind.
Yeah, that was what I had to do. I had to take it as motivation and just never looked back. As far as support, I have a ton of support now, 3 years later. But at the beginning, I didn't know where to look and I didn't know how to ask for support. So going out and networking and getting myself out there and being vulnerable enough to say, hey, I'm here and I don't know anything was really a big deal, because then I met you. I met so many other amazing people that were willing to help. So you just got to ask.
So speaking of networking for a minute, we talk about that a lot, whether it's in the company, whether it's on this podcast or other, things that were out there in the industry. But how important is networking to you? Because I feel it's like the lifeline of what we do, because now, especially with COVID, I feel like there's been so much more because all we could do was get on social media and talk and meet people that way. But truly, I talk about having that network that you can use to get yourself to the next level. So, like, how do you feel about that? And how challenging do you think it was for yourself to go put yourself out there and actually ask the questions?
Yeah, I find networking exactly. It is a part of your lifeline in a business. If you're not continuing to get yourself out there and meet new people, then you're not going to keep growing. I have clients that love me, I love working with them, but things shift and change that are out of their control, and you can lose a client for no reason. So you have to continually drive to bring on new clientele and keep your face out there and your name. It was super scary, super scary at first. My very first networking event, I always tell people this. I was so afraid. I was just like a big ball of sweat and just shaking and afraid to even give my 2-minute elevator pitch. But after that first event, I met the lady that put me in the 21 book. So it just proves right then and there. Yes, I was scared, but I was willing to be vulnerable and put myself out there, and amazing opportunity came right out of it immediately.
That's awesome. I mean, because I talk a lot about, I feel like there's times I'm supposed to meet someone and it doesn't happen. But then you're like in the bar at a hotel at a conference, and next thing you know, this person's like right in front of you. And then you feel like you're in a different environment to where it's more personal too, to where you can build a different type of relationship, that's maybe just a little bit better than just being in that business side of it, I guess, so to speak. Just because I've been doing this so long, I can see the difference of like, yeah, going to a building and meeting with someone, but then now you're out having a drink with someone, you can kind of let loose a little bit more. And it really is beneficial, especially when you talked about meeting the author of the book 21. So why don't we talk about that a little bit? Like, how did that opportunity happen? What is that about? Because that is exciting.
Yeah, so I met Kelly. She was our project manager of the book 21 at that first networking event, which was the first I had went to and the last before COVID. It was right before the lockdowns happened, back in 2020, and she just had this idea of giving inspirational stories and sharing them. So the book is about written by 21 female entrepreneurs, and each of them shares a little bit of hope, inspiration, or faith. And the book is split up in three different sections as well. There are fabulous people in there. Then their contact information is in there as well. So definitely check it out. You can get the book on Amazon, and look out, because come March of 2023, I have another book coming out calling Unleashing Your Soul Level Magic.
That's awesome. I'm so excited for you. I remember when I was younger, you talk about people putting out books and what does that mean? And then as I networked, right, I started to meet ghostwriters, and then you learn more about like how it's put together, because I'm sitting there thinking I couldn't write a book, but I know what the story would be and someone else would have to write it in their own words. But no, that's a very great accomplishment for you, and super proud of you.
Thank you.
For those of you that don't know, I have met Racquelle a few years ago, as she mentioned too. So her and I have been talking business on and off, and watching you through this journey. I'm just so proud of what you've been able to accomplish, because there's so many women that are afraid to put themselves out there and take that risk and do what you did. But there's so many women that are successful at doing it. And I think it's so important that they understand, don't doubt yourself and take that leap of faith. And there are people like us out there that are willing to help you with that journey, that know what you're going through. So one of the things I wanted to talk about with you too is you had recently started this year a podcast of your own. And I think it's very interesting, because I feel like it's something that you don't really see out there. You might once in a while see it. There's a lot of different podcasts now within our industry. But can you talk a little bit about why you started the podcast, obviously what it's called, and how important it is to you, and what are you getting out of it?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So my podcast is called Trucker Talks Live. We do it all for free. It's just my way of giving back. Really, like I said, I'm kind of a logistics nerd. So I really have this goal of whatever I'm doing, the goal is to make the transportation industry better in whatever it is I'm doing. So the podcast, the purpose of it is to share truck drivers' stories and legacies, and really share what it is that they know, because I talk to drivers every day, all day, and have amazing conversations. And I'm like, oh, I wish I could have recorded that nugget of knowledge to share out there, because they just have the life experience and things that coming from me doesn't sound the same as coming from a veteran and somebody that has been on the road for 50 years that says, make sure that you double check your straps. That sounds way better coming from a driver than it does from me. So the whole goal is really to give a platform to truck drivers all over the United States and Canada. I do have a Canadian driver that was on there, so that they can share why they got into transportation, what they love about it, what they don't like about it, and what we need to change. Really just bringing awareness to the industry.
Yeah, I think a lot of people probably didn't realize how important supply chain is and the drivers to everything we do until COVID hit, right?
Mhm.
Everyone's wanting, where's the toilet paper, right? The toilet paper crisis that I don't want to say was really a crisis, but at the end of the day, it was really just getting the product to the stores, and there was a lot of demand going on and a lot of displaced equipment. But the truck driver themselves, whether they're a woman, man, whichever, is so important to our economy. And I think it's great that you're doing what you're doing and highlighting them, because at the end of the day, I think the one thing that you can get out of this too is making them feel important and giving them the attention that they truly deserve, but also hearing what are your challenges. And then also using your network to talk about what are those challenges and how can we all together as companies in this industry make it better for them.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
so yeah, definitely interesting. So, everyone listening, please check out this podcast because I do think that it's extremely important, that everyone sees what she's doing here with these drivers. Definitely cool stuff for sure.
Oh, well, thank you. I
Yeah.
really enjoy the conversation, and it kind of just flows with the drivers. So it's my way of giving back, I guess.
Do they feel like there's some kind of celebrity or superstar because you want to interview them?
I think so. Yeah, yeah. I've been having more people reach out on LinkedIn lately too, more drivers. So that's really cool. It seems to be really getting out there and getting the word around.
Well, yeah, and if you think about it, so not only like you getting the word around and all of that kind of stuff, it's probably also a means for them to be visible to other companies that are out there. And again, I think the more that do that, the more that it's going to help them and help all of us achieve what we need to for our drivers that are delivering freight for all of us. Everything we consume has been delivered by a truck one way or another.
Yes.
So, extremely important. Um, Another question I had for you, finding a mentor. I know we talked about it a little bit, but, can you talk a little bit about what that has been for you, how important that is, and what do you think is most helpful about having one? And then kind of maybe go into like, how do you see yourself coming out of this on the other end?
Sure. So I will say when I first started in logistics, I felt like it was very much so a dog eat dog world. I did not feel like I could turn to anyone outside of my company for assistance. So whenever I left the corporation that I was at, and I was then an agent on my own, sure, I can call the corporate office, but they're not agents. They didn't really have the same feel of what's going on in the market or um, as much guidance as I was really needing. So
Right.
I really put myself out on LinkedIn and started to find other people that I could follow along and connect with. One of the biggest things is really as an entrepreneur going through the mental struggles of the ups and downs because they're always going to be there. But being able to share those with somebody such as yourself, it really helps you to be like, okay, I'm not alone. This is something that everyone is dealing with. It's not just me. And it kind of takes that pressure off in sort of a way. I will say that we're trying, you and I both are trying to change the narrative here in logistics, that it is no longer this is mine and that's yours, that we are all here. There's plenty of freight. There's plenty of business out there. Help each other out. It's very refreshing to be able to say, yeah, I know Christy, and she's a friend of mine. It's not a no, we can't talk about her. And I think that's really an old mentality that we're trying to shift in this market.
Yeah, I agree with you. When I started, I can remember my dad telling me, like, we don't talk to our competitors.
Mhm.
And it was like a very like known thing initially. But not long after that, like one of the things he did was build a list of competitors that did what we did in the niche and intermodal. And when we had issues finding equipment, it was like, let's reach out to all these competitors. Let's see what we can help them with and what they can help us with. And I will say, like, you had some that definitely took well to that, and others that were not so willing to be part of that. But I feel like now, like you just mentioned, I think the biggest thing we can all take away from where we're at is the fact that reaching out, there's so many people that are willing to help you and help you not make the mistakes that say I made myself, because I felt like I didn't really have that help, so to speak, younger in my career. And I think that's why I do what I do and I give back, because I don't want to see other people struggle like I did. And you could get so much further ahead if you knew some of these things earlier on that I didn't know. And I think that's so important in giving back and changing the narrative, like you said. And it's okay to reach out and work together. I'm not here to steal your customer or vice versa. We just want to help each other all get better, get bigger, and just thrive and be successful. I don't know how you feel about it, but I do feel like you probably feel the same way. It's
Absolutely.
definitely rewarding.
It is. It is. And the same thing you had asked me about, how do I see myself coming in through that, trying to become a mentor myself. And I do see that with my team. I really have stepped back and tried to allow them to work through the problems and then help them think through the problems rather than just giving the answer. And I think that that's a learned thing as I become a leader, as I am a leader, because prior it was just easier to take care of it all myself and to do it myself. But I've
Right.
learned that you have to share those nuggets of knowledge. You have to pass things down, and that is another one of the driving forces for the podcast, because our whole being is based on storytelling, right? You go back to, we're recording this the day before Thanksgiving. You go back to the Indians, and they used to sit around and tell stories, and that's how people learned. They learned from those lessons from their grandparents. So it's the same. We just need to continue to share and let people know that it's okay to ask for help and ask for assistance.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think you said it perfectly, because a lot of times too, it is stepping back, allowing others to do their jobs, but also guiding them and knowing that they can fall back on you. But sometimes they have to make those mistakes to understand how you also move forward and you fix those
Mm-hmm.
as well. So one of the questions I wanted to ask you as well is, developing a coalition. So we're talking about networking, mentoring. How can women, and I will also throw out to you drivers, develop a coalition of like-minded, whether it's fellow employees, or within the workspace. And for drivers, obviously, they probably have a different network that I'm not even really that familiar with. And maybe you can share with us, how does that look like, or what would you envision that for drivers? Because I feel like that's what you're trying to create.
It is what I'm trying to create. A lot of drivers are very much so on their own, and they just do their own business and that's it. They don't even realize that they can ask for help too. So that's part of the awareness that I'm trying to spread, is that they don't have to be alone, that there's a lot of information out there and a lot of people want to help. I've interviewed many truck drivers that say the same thing, that if you're sitting there and having trouble securing your shipment, ask your neighbor. They will gladly help you, because everyone likes to feel like they're valued. Everyone likes to give their input and help other people. I don't know many people that are like, no, that's mine, I'm going to keep it to myself.
Maybe
It's
one. No.
maybe one. But overall, I mean, that's the feel that we want to create. And as far as where do we do that at? I'm still working on that, but I'm at least giving the platform to get people to start to share what it is that they know and what it is that they need help with as well.
Yeah, which I think is great, because the other thing about that is you can collect data by having these conversations and podcasts. And then you're starting to build that network that you have, and then kind of expand and even reach out to some organizations, whether it's women in trucking or whatever they might be, and say, how do we support these drivers and do some of these things so that they don't feel so alone. And this is some of the feedback that you've gotten, and you want to be a part of that, but you need some maybe additional outside resources to help kind of make that come to fruition.
Absolutely. I mean, mental health is big to me. So I would absolutely love to help drivers, out on the road dealing with mental health. But again, I don't have those resources yet. So we're still working on trying to figure out how that would look.
Gotcha. No, well, that's good to know because, I mean, if anyone's listening and has any ideas, I definitely want people to reach out and have those conversations because I feel like I have some ideas myself that could potentially help because I do think it is important to highlight that, especially since we hear more and more data about how challenging the driver job is. Whether it's being alone or just the challenges they face being on the road and dealing with shippers and that type of thing. So, I definitely think that this is going down a bigger path that maybe we'll see here in the future. So,
Hopefully, am starting to partner with Next Gen Trucking, and their whole mission is to share transportation in the high schools so that we can try to get more people coming into diesel mechanic school or truck driving school and really just get the awareness out there because they've noticed across the United States that we don't have enough training places. We don't have enough places for drivers to actually people to go and learn how to become a driver.
right. And I think one of the bigger things too I've been a part of is like women drivers, right? There's like a big pool of women that would drive if they had certain flexibilities or certain help. And one of the biggest things was a woman trainer.
Mm-hmm.
Train the women drivers just because of some of the challenges. So I do think like we're making progress as a country and trying to help solve some of these issues. But I do think, the piece that you're doing hopefully will be a part of the bigger piece of everything just to make it more whole for these drivers that are out there. So thank you for doing what you're doing.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So, I have to ask you, of all the people you've met over the years, who do you think inspires you the most or who has inspired you the most and why?
Hmm. So my biggest mentor I've never met, he's actually no longer on this earth, but that would be Wayne Dyer. I think mostly because he's very spiritual, very grounded, and he was a psychologist as well. So it kind of really just pulls me in. But as far as business minded goes, I would say Evan Carmichael. I met him at he came to Pittsburgh and we did like a 4-hour retreat with him and learned so much. This was before I was on camera and I was super afraid. But he is fabulous. I don't know if you know of him, but check him out. He puts out a whole bunch of entrepreneur information on YouTube for free. He had even broken his neck at one point and still traveled the entire United States to finish what he started. So like he's super inspirational and really brings other entrepreneurs to you so that you can learn from them. Definitely one of my biggest mentors.
That's awesome. I appreciate you sharing that. So, I guess, I always ask this question, and it's something I think is important to, anybody that's listening. But, what is the best advice that you ever got that you didn't take? And how did it change you?
The best advice that I've got that I didn't take, and how did it change me? I guess.
Or if that's too challenging, how about the best advice that you ever got that you feel has made a change in your life because you have taken it and you were able to do something with it?
Sure. I think that one's a little easier.
I have to challenge you a little bit.
I guess if I didn't take the advice in my mind, it's already gone, right? Because I don't hold on to that. So,
right.
The best advice that I did take would have been a few years ago whenever I was really lost during COVID, didn't know what to do next with the business or where to go. And I started reaching out and I spoke to many different people, but a lot of them kept telling me that I should continue to put myself out there. I really wanted to quit. I really wanted to just stay hidden behind behind scenes and not be on camera and not put myself in front of people. But everyone just said to keep practicing and keep keep trying. And because of that, now I'm here. I've now, been able to be on multiple podcasts, start my own podcast, and really people actually know me. I'm not just a nobody anymore. So it's really one of those, it was super scary, right? Like I had anxiety through the roof to try to even talk to somebody on Zoom. But having that support system that continued to push me and told me to keep trying was the best advice I could have ever taken. And in the way I did it, I'll give my little trick. I record myself every single day on my phone. I take a
Wow.
it's like a journal. I like journal to my phone every single day. And that's how I got over hearing my voice, making faces at myself, judging myself. I just practiced every single day.
Good for you. I mean, like I said, I was the same way. I didn't want to put myself out there. I didn't want to be out speaking. Obviously, I still struggle with it to this day. I've gotten a lot better, but I think it's so important because we need women like ourselves and the other women that we, kind of surround ourselves with that are putting themselves out there to show that, you can do this too. Like, yes, it can be a little bit challenging, but I challenge everybody to challenge themselves, because you only get better if you do that. And I think ultimately, even though it's hard, I think you feel so much more better knowing that you actually were able to do that when you didn't think you could.
That's exactly it. One of my favorite mottos that I even shared in the 21 book, and I will share again, is that we can do hard things. We just have to do one baby step at a time. And then eventually you look back and it's all done, right? You just got to
Absolutely.
break it down.
No, I love that. So before we wrap up, I did want to ask you one last question. I know we touched on a lot of different things that you love, but what is your main passion project and why is it important to you? I think, I just want to hear you say it because I think it's going to help you push that further along.
My main passion project is really just sharing my story and inspiring other people, really. I just want everyone to know that you don't have to come from riches in order to make something of yourself, right? I come from nothing and have worked really hard to get to where I am, and I'm going to continue to work hard. But I just want everyone else to know that we all struggle in the same way, and we're all human. Just keep pushing, keep going, and really just to inspire people. So I try to do that through podcasts. I try to do that through Facebook. I have a page called Healthy Happy Hiker, and on there I share struggles and triumphs, mental battles, and hiking, just to kind of give inspiration to other people that may not be feeling it that day, right? If you're just not feeling good and you come across a picture of me outside, you might be like, okay, I can go for a walk. I can do that. And that little bit of movement can shift not only your body pattern, but your mindset as well. And so I think that's why I really push people to get outdoors and really to change their scenery so that they can feel better overall.
I love that. I think that also is like, what advice could you give? And that was all of that wrapped up in one. No, but now I appreciate you sharing that. So everyone, we're at the end of our show, and thank you so much, Racquelle, for sharing your journey with us. And for more information about Racquelle, you can see her at www.stressfreeshipping.us, www.truckerstalklive.com, which is her podcast with truck drivers, Facebook at Healthy Happy Hiker, and www.21book, that's 20wonbook.com. I advise you to check it out. And then, of course, Zen Freight Solutions, and then rpakutz at shipldi.com is where you can find her. So thank you all, and we look forward to seeing you all on our next show.
Thank you so much, Christy.
You're welcome.